All right, we're back with more Real B news. So Keith Lee came to my city. He came to the DMV area and completely flamed us for having ashy restaurants. And it's not sitting well with me. It's not sitting well with a lot of us. But a lot of what he said was the truth. So he visited some of the well-known restaurants around the DMV area. So mostly carryouts recently. And then he really set off a firestorm basically because he was saying that DC area restaurants are based around alcohol and that they don't really cater to his demographic. Now, I do agree that there are a lot of restaurants in the DC area that cater to alcohol, but the issue with Keith Lee is that he focuses so much on carry-out places, and that's not really the livelihood. Not really normal for folks in the DC area, just carryouts. Like, we have a lot of sit-down restaurants. And so I didn't agree with that. And I don't agree with his approach all the time. But I do agree that we do have some real ashy, dry tasting food in the DC area. And I learned that 10 years ago when I moved here, is that a lot of folks in this area grow up really cooking seafood. Like, they only cooking crabs, they're only cooking some shrimp that that can just thaw, and you just put it on a plate and add some cocktail sauce. So a lot of their seasonings aren't really that flavorful. Like, I can go to like one of the most popular like fried fish restaurants in the area, and it tastes like somebody white auntie cooked it. And I remember one of my friends even saw the folks at this popular restaurant cooking fish and but battering the fish, and they only put salt and pepper. Like, in the South, you ain't eating that fish. You're not eating fish if it's only seasoned with salt and pepper. Like, especially whiting, that cheap fish, you gotta add some seasoning salt. You maybe gotta add some garlic powder, onion powder. You're gonna add a whole bunch of different stuff, not just salt and pepper. And there's like lines wrapped around this popular fish spot in DC. I'm not gonna call them out because I just don't agree with attacking these businesses like that. But it just proved to me that a lot of folks in the area just don't really have good taste buds and a good palate for food. And I get it. Like I said, they're raised really cooking seafood, basic seafood, not like in Louisiana where you have all of this different crawfish, you have the fried oysters and all that type of stuff. No, jambalaya, no type of food that Black Americans cook here really tastes really good. Now, the immigrant, like the ethnic food, that tastes good, but I've also had some very subpar jerk chicken here. It's like that jerk chicken where you put it in the oven, you put your chicken in the oven, and then you just cover it in the jerk sauce or the jerk seasoning. That's how a lot of they jerk chicken tastes here. So there's just something different about folks' taste buds here and palate. So I do agree with him on that. Like, there's one of the restaurants that he went to, and I think this is the plate that he's holding up. That was a restaurant that I was told to go to in DC when I first moved here, and everybody was saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so great." I went there and I was like, "What is this hot, steaming, stinking water-based mess?" Like, everything just tastes like it's been boiled. I just don't know what it is. Well, I do. I just told you. Like, they're so used to cooking seafood, everything just has this flavor like it was just cooked like a hot dog or something. Like, I don't know, like boiled like a hot dog. But he went to that restaurant, and this is the plate that he's actually holding up, in the video, in the review. Now, he did go to some other restaurants in the area. One of the things that he did say is that, that the food was just not good, and that it was actually fried like in the same batter as like fish or something like that. And so I didn't understand that, he came to a city that's known for like mostly seafood to judge anything that's not seafood. Like, that's hard to do in the DC area and in the DMV area. So for him to come here and only, go to carryout spots and not go to actual sit down restaurants that folks usually go to. I think that was a disservice, and that just wasn't an honest thing to do, to really highlight the DC area. But I do agree that this food is not as flavorful. I will say this, like the places that I tell people to go to and the places that I say are good, people in this area say that they don't like it. And you know why they say that they don't like these places that I say taste good? They say that it's over seasoned, which leads back to my theory that these folks are so used to boiling meat, they're not used to really the season. And what is it? Old Bay. Like they're so used to just covering up food with Old Bay, they're boiling meat and just covering it with Old Bay, that they really don't season their food like that. Now the ethnic spots, like I said, great. Overall, great. But when you go to these other restaurants, it'll be hit or miss. Unless I'm not going to call them out because they're not giving me money. But I will say, like the base, I'll just go ahead and say, like Carolina Kitchen, they have consistent food. A lot of people locally don't like it, but whenever I tell somebody from the South to go to Carolina Kitchen, they're like, "Oh, this food it tastes good. Like it's consistent. They can get it any day. It tastes exactly the same, and it tastes good." But people in this area think that it's over seasoned, which is insane to me. But anyway, I'm glad that he actually came to the area because Dukem Restaurant is located on U Street in DC, and it's one of those Ethiopian restaurants where they've been struggling since the pandemic, and they really need a pickup. And so there was a TikTok that went viral, and they sent it to Keith Lee, and so he stopped by. And so it's really picking up steam, and it's allowing a lot of folks to discover this restaurant that most folks in the area already have been to. But it really put the spotlight on an institution on U Street. Now we really don't want to lose that restaurant, so I'm really glad that he did have a chance to stop by and highlight that restaurant, because we are losing a lot of our ethnic restaurants and Black American restaurants, especially with gentrification happening across the country. So still shout out to him for doing that, and also shout out to Keith Lee for leaving these big tips at these restaurants, because after he leave a restaurant and give them a good review or a bad review, many times these restaurants cannot afford to keep up. Like they're going to have to buy a lot of different things to even fulfill the order. So if they're used to only getting 100 orders in a day, and then all of a sudden they get 300, or they're only used to getting 50 orders in a day, or maybe even 25, and then it goes up to 100, like where are you going to get this money from to even buy all of these different things? Because you have to buy in bulk, right? A lot of this stuff for restaurants. And so shouts out to him for still doing that. I do like that. And there's also this thing going on with him that a lot of people are saying that he needs a cultural type of strategist to go to these cities and really highlight restaurants that pass the native test, where like folks in the area know the restaurant, or there's like a historic attachment to the restaurant, or it has like a flavor of the region that you just need to check out. I do agree with that, because he's going to these random carryouts as if like that's where people mainly eat. No, we eat at restaurants. We sit down. And also, most restaurants, I don't want to eat from some of these restaurants in a plastic container in my car. Like you're taking away a lot from the flavor of the food when you just mush it all together and sit in your Honda Civic, whatever he's driving to these different places, and chowing down like in the front seat. Like that's not normal for folks that's going to these restaurants. Like I haven't tasted a lot of food as carry out that I'm used to going to restaurants to actually purchase every month or whatever. So I need for Keith Lee to get a cultural strategist and go to these cities and do a little bit more research. But anyway, I'm glad that he did it, because he did highlight some local favorites, and he did call out DC's ashy taste buds. But for some reason, our friend Funky Dineva picked up this story and completely use it as a chance to punch DC in the face. I don't know what's going on with Funky Dineva with DC, but what did we do? Like, who broke up with you? Like what happened? But he really went in on folks from DC. He said, "What is that security clearance doing for you?" And he called folks in DC over glorified H&M wearing clerical workers. Now, Funky, you're leaving Miami for Atlanta, the home of the H&M wearing clerical worker, the home of scammers. DC area at least have the wealthiest counties in the country for Black Americans. DC at least has the home of some of the most educated Black people in the United States. But you are moving to the home of the 5 people sleeping in a 1-bedroom apartment. You are moving to the home of an H&M worker that's still what they call it, little t-shirt, graphic tees, and sell them on the side. You are moving to the home of the call center queen. Like, come on. Like DC does not bother anybody. Like, even the celebrities from DC barely bother anybody, except for that crazy lady on Zeus. What's her name? I forgot her name, but there's not many times that DC has been a problem to Black folks. So leave DC alone. I don't know what's going on with you with DC. I don't know if you got in a fight with somebody 15 years ago in DC, and you went to Pride or something, and they talked about you and they ran you out of town, but you move to Atlanta. Like, you don't have room to talk. Okay, so I'm gonna need you to calm down and keep DC out of your mouth. But anyway, what do y'all think about it? I think that we need Keith Lee to get a cultural strategist, and I think that Funky Dineva needs to keep DC's name out of his mouth. All right, well, thanks for joining me today. What do you think? Do you think he needs a cultural strategist? Do you think that he needs to really invest more in actual research? What do you think? Let me know in the comments.